Yeah, let's go. Good morning. My name is Kristen Krakowski. I am the commercial horticulture educator in Waukesha County for UW-Madison Extension. I wear a lot of other hats though, so you may recognize me from my work at the Wisconsin Farmers Market Association. We're fresh market vegetable growers. So you may know me in any number of capacities, but I work a lot with farmers markets all over the state and have for a good number of years. So Kelly decided I would be a really great person to facilitate this. So what I'm going to have you guys do first is just go through, introduce yourself and say your market. And then if there's any key thing about your market you want to say, and then we'll launch into the questions if you don't mind, for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I'm Rogelio Contreras. I'm the community mobilizer for Wello. So I'm here to represent the Brown County area. Like I said, I don't specify represent a market, farmers market, but I do represent at least our area and that thing. So
I'm Taylor Christensen. I'm a regional farmers market coordinator for Central Wisconsin, and I work specifically with 5 markets in a 5-county area. And yeah, so I don't manage or specifically work with any management stuff, but here I am.
I'm Deidre Bergman, and I do manage a market in Eau Claire. And I think probably a bit why I got asked to be here is because we've been running market match or token program since 2012, and so we have a bit of experience in it, and that's grown.
Hi everyone, Meg Kilkenny. I work with Extension and FoodWIse program in Milwaukee County. I support the Milwaukee Market Match program, which works with currently 11 markets in Milwaukee.
Howdy, my name is Andrew Hurst. I work at Community Action Coalition of South Central Wisconsin with service areas for Dane County, Jefferson County, and Waukesha County. And we work with 11 markets here in Dane County, and we'll look to expand over in Jefferson and Waukesha.
Do you want him on the mic?
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a great
I
voice,
apologize.
but they really want to hear you. So all of these folks here at on the panel are involved in EBT and farmers markets. So I probably should have prefaced it that way and not as market manager. Sorry, old habits die hard. So can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with the farmers market SNAP EBT and kind of your perspective on how things go where you're at?
definitely. So Wello is really involved on the double box program in particular, and the EBT were the ones that kind of initiated a little bit about 10 years ago the movement within the markets to get SNAP little machines so people can actually get their EBT in there. But we added the double box, also fundraising and reaching out to local organizations. And so we work currently with hospitals, Sisters of Wisconsin, HSS, you might all know of. And we support obviously doing the reimbursement part of the double box on that end, but also we went a little bit a step forward on it, and we introduced during the pandemic a double box system that included the culturally specific resource centers that especially for those undocumented population that were not able to SNAP eligible. So we included that part of that. So that's how we somehow related on that. I'm the one that sends all the reports and asks for invoices from the farmers market. So I get to interact with them quite often, at least to annoy them quite a few times during the month.
So my position came about through a USDA local food promotion program grant to increase food equity and food access in Central Wisconsin. So the 5 markets we're working with vary from one end of the spectrum to the other, from markets that have never had EBT, never even considered offering EBT, to those that have offered it for a long time. Some in the middle used to offer it and then didn't have capacity. So really, I'm just kind of trying to meet markets where they're at and just see what resources they need to lift them up.
I can say probably in 2008, when I first became the manager, I got contacted by someone that talked about being able to accept EBT at our market. And it was the first year I was the market manager and I was already overwhelmed and I said, I don't know, I want to do this, but so got help from Vista AmeriCorps student or employee, and in 2011 implemented the program, and then also got help in 2015 to start a match program. And I think we've been doing very well, and with our partnership with UW Extension and UWC, that we've really gained a lot of support. And since I run the day-to-day, it is hard to do all of that other stuff too by yourself, plus run a market with 75 vendors. So that our partnership works very well, and we want to grow the program every year, of course.
Yeah, so Milwaukee Market Match is a program that's actually operated by our partners at Fondi Food Center, who are not able to be here today. They are the fiscal agent for the grant, but FoodWIse has been a partner really from the beginning in terms of wanting to increase EBT access in general, and also wanting to have the first ever sort of county-wide coordinated system for nutrition incentives. So similar to what Noah mentioned in his presentation, really markets are kind of doing their own thing. Some had programs, some had funding, some had grants, some did not. So we, with our other amazing partners at American Heart Association, shout out to the people in the room, we're able to secure $1 million in funding from Milwaukee County government. This is through the American Rescue Plan Act funds, so they are federal dollars, over 3 years. So right now we're in our second year, and the grant will continue through 2024, and it is a $20 match for SNAP shoppers at 11 markets across our county.
And my role is very similar to a lot of what was stated too, in terms of managing and coordinating amongst markets, acting as the fiscal agent, as well as sort of expanding and providing resources to cut down those red tapes and barriers to maintaining EBT and SNAP access, as well as looking at other nutrition incentive services that get provided at farmers markets, coordinating with UW Extension to provide resources for the markets to encourage nutrition, and then further expand the program to other counties in the area, and enjoy the robust culture of farmers markets that Dane County has, which is pretty unique and wonderful to be working with within the state.
And diverse.
Oh,
Yeah,
incredibly
sorry.
diverse. Thank you. No, thank you.
I'm listening. So we've got an idea of kind of what they all kind of do, but what we're going to talk about next is kind of their dreams. Let's talk about your dreams. So if there was a statewide program for incentives, what would you want that to look like? How would you need to benefit your current program to kind of move it forward?
Geez, I think we might all have a similar dream, and that's why I think we're here for that. I think one of the toughest questions is to remove barriers. So we at least in our area, we encounter a lot of barriers with cultural differences, and sometimes federal, funding comes with a lot of good benefits, but tons of barriers that should be and allow you to do the work a lot more intentional. But you're like, oh yeah, we want to do our best to be intentional, but they throw in a lot of those barriers within. So our dream overall is to obviously find a sustainable program that will just not benefit the ones that are using double bucks or EBT in this particular stand, but also to spend it a little bit more into, I think that's something that Michigan's already doing, to grocery stores, going a little bit more of our farmers markets and be able to support farmers markets as their own, but at the same time support local grocery stores.
We have to go in order if anyone else has any. I mean, over here.
Yeah, I can jump in. For me, the dream is increasing capacity and people power, because as I'm sure individual market managers know, as well as people who are managing programs locally or regionally, it is so much work. And having sort of like sustainable staffing structures to support the work is going to be absolutely essential for this to function on a statewide level. And that can look like so many different things, like, because the thing that's also challenging about this work is each market kind of has its own unique culture and kind of has its own unique vibe and also its own unique staffing structure in a lot of cases. A lot of the markets I work with are 100% volunteer run. There's no paid staff. And so it really just depends in terms of like a market's needs. And then of course, obviously needing to have the people to support them.
I think I have a dream of growing the program so that we can reach our tendrils out to more customers that can come and to make sure that we can be all inclusive of everyone. Possibly even though we're on a bus line, transportation for some people, or you know, find out what it is that we need to do to get more participation. It seems we're lucky that we do get money from local organizations and businesses. But of course, with more money, you can do more things. And I can relate to I have to think, because I do make a salary. It's not a lot, but I consider some of my work with our future program to be volunteer because I end up spending a lot of hours per week doing it. Yes.
Yep.
I think to piggyback off of both of those, something that I would look for in these markets, like I said, like the markets I work with are on a spectrum, but if we had a standardized process in which all the markets are doing things in the same way, they could work collaboratively to answer questions, because while yes, each market is very unique and has their own culture, I think markets are a lot more similar than they want to realize, and they do have a lot of similar barriers. So if there was just more standardization, then they can focus on all the other responsibilities that a market manager has to do and then work on getting the people there. In addition, having other like resources for the different cultures that sell at markets. Like we have a large Hmong population of growers that are first generation. So their, grandkids are the ones that are translating, but the grandkids are the ones running the business. And we have a lot of Amish and Mennonite farmers as well. And so like their needs are a little bit different. So a standardized process, but also with allowances for different cultures.
Yes, to all of those points as well that was mentioned in terms of labor staffing for farmers markets, providing those benefits, making sure they're accessible and secured, and then also making sure that the farmers and vendors do have that lifeline and that guaranteed sort of sense of income that they can get from these federal benefits too, that they are not missing out on this allotment of funds that's guaranteed for it. But as Noah mentioned, GusNIP is taking a huge swing at a lot of problems from food insecurity, nutrition insecurity, as well as markets. So just accepting all of that and catching that.
And I'm going to throw in one thing that I think was an undercurrent here, but I just want to say it has to be accessible to the farmers and the folks receiving benefits, because we have a lot of farmers who don't do digital or don't use a computer, or so when we start thinking about it kind of holistically, we want to make sure we're inclusive on both ends of the spectrum. We want to make sure that people can use their benefits, but also that farmers that are potentially benefiting can access it as well.
I agree with that very much.
Yeah, I'm a farmer's wife. So I'm always looking at what do the farmers get out of it, part of it too. Because it's not an easy job. So the next part of this is a little more feet on the ground, still reaching for the stars, but feet on the ground. So if you were gonna see, what do you see as making local food? What do you see as the future of making local food accessible in your community? Like, what do you think as realistic when you look out maybe 5 years? How do you see addressing food accessibility with where we're at?
Well, one thing,
You don't have to
go ahead.
No?
one thing that my position was started with the local food promotion planning grant. In our next implementation grant, where we apply what we learned, one of the things we're focusing on is how there is a return on investment for vendors and markets to invest in food access work. Because yes, we're providing food access, but that's sales. Like that's the farmer making money off of that sale, whether it's from a wooden token or cash. So by showing like there is an economic benefit, as well as you get to feel good about like providing a great resource, but like for farmers, it does benefit them to have access to this customer base. So yeah, local food access makes money too.
Yes, I think it's more important to see both sides of it, helping people with food insecurities, but some of our vendors or farmers, they might have food insecurities and be part of the program as well. So it's always the programs that are around are good twofold, that they're helping people with food insecurity and our local farmers. And to get the word out about that, how much it does in our money stays in the community and all of that, and maybe getting the word out somehow, that's a dream of mine, that we can educate more people on that and, you know, find a way that that makes sense to them and that they should be shopping at farmers markets and supporting the local vendors.
I think just to pick it from there, it's changing that language of, you know, and from hey, it's a charity, it's actually economic development. It adds a lot into the conversation, and usually we have this perspective of, you know, you're helping people, then you're doing charity work, especially if you're in corporate America. If you heard from corporate America, it's like, oh, what are you guys doing? You're doing charity. And I'm like, no. So I think it's just changing that language a little bit more into the, you know, we're actually providing economic development and into the area we're in part of. So
And preventing long-term expenses of medical care, there's all sorts of benefits to eating healthier. And then when we talk about that sustainability part, I mean, we've all been through COVID, we all saw the food shortages. By having a local food system and allowing for that diversity, you have your food coming from multiple places. So the prices, although they're really high at the grocery store, if you've been at the farmer's market, you know, they did not go up as high at the farmer's market as they did at the grocery store. You have some modifying effects, you have access to things that you might not otherwise have, because if the national or international food systems jammed up, you still have local producers here that can fill some of those gaps. So one of the other questions that we have, let me pause just for questions. Is that okay? Let me pause to see if anybody has any questions about SNAP EBT programs in relation to what everybody does. Now you guys don't have questions. Okay, I just wanted to go ahead. I mean, I just.
How difficult was it for you all to get staff to your market initially? Who was the forerunner? Our cooperative with the control, how do you expand that? You might have that. I know with the guidance, and doesn't really a lot of resources. How do you shepherd? Do you have that?
And I'm being truth, and we said we were going to be truth. Sometimes it falls, even though there is systems, procedures, and it falls into whom you may know in the state that pulls some strings on it. In particular, we're going through that process of actually having a EBT program in one of the shelters, right? Actually, because we provide culturally specific boxes to different resource centers, and we wanted to make sure people were able to had another platform of it. So definitely it does help to get some networking from the state side of it, which is sad. But yeah, it falls into who you may know of actually knowing and going through, because even if you go through the proper channels, those processes stand for a long time. Right. So you might have to be on the phone a couple of times during the week just to say, hey, how's my process doing? How is this going? It's not impossible. And definitely if there's anything else or anything in particular we can help on, definitely just use as a resource center, as a resource. But definitely, yeah, it falls into who you may know in the state.
That's one of the biggest sticking points too for farmer markets and the vendors is the POS systems or the point of sale systems too. They can range from $150 to $750 plus, just in terms of subscriptions, and then far be it if you're anywhere close to a LAN or wireless connection too, because that also offers a point of consternation, especially when you're trying to process these transactions on these digital platforms. So I know Farmer Market Coalition, I don't know if I'm saying, they offered a grant program up into I think 2018 or 2021. I'm not a representative, so I'm not too familiar with them, but it was to specifically target that issue and help offset that cost, because FINI or GusNIP doesn't apply any funds to cost of service systems like that. So that is something to be ever present, ever mindful of, and start either leveraging private donations, sponsorships, funding, or just start thinking about it in terms of being able to process this.
So I'll do some, we'll get to you next. I'll do some shameless self-promotion now. I wrote a publication about starting farmers market EBT in Wisconsin. Because all states are a little bit different states, give equipment, they do, like the programs are all different because they the money tends to flow through the state. So although it's getting a little dated, it's what I like about it and what I was trying to do with it was give markets a realistic view of what it takes. So we all want to, improve people's ability to get benefits. We all want to bring more people to the markets. We all want to support our farmers. But it's a question of what does it really take? Let me know before I jump into this and fill out this application, what the expectations might be. And I would say the one thing I don't address well in there is the POS equipment, because that is shifting sand, to be fair. So wait, I got a new question here first and then I'll move over.
I was just curious if anyone could speak anymore to how you're proving the economic impact of farmers markets, because unfortunately in the circle that FoodWIse often is in, we're preaching to the choir. Those people and those partners and those supporters know and see and understand the need for EBT in the incentive programs. So it's the other people that we need to be advocating for the need to get those programs up and running. So other than like a lot of obvious, surveys and things that cost money, how do we help small rural communities understand the need? Economic impact. Can you rephrase the question for everyone?
Oh, absolutely. So the question really is that when you're trying to get a program up and running or trying to get funding for a program, stop me if I mess this up. When you're trying to do that process, sorry, my brain just stopped.
How are you?
How are you measuring?
Measuring?
Yeah, how are you measuring or identifying or verifying or whatever you want to say the benefits to not just the benefit recipients, but also to the community and the farmers? Thank you.
GusNIP, and part of its nutrition incentive hub model, has a nutrition incentive calculator. So you can plug in X amount of dollars. Sorry, do you want to plug this? Or yeah, you can plug it. Yeah, it's so cool. You can plug in X amount of dollars for how long the programs run, and you can see its direct economic impact, and it gives different qualifiers for its different multipliers. So it cites its sources for you. There's also a model called true cost accounting, which is something I can't speak to, but is worth looking into because it can show other different ideas and models about where money goes and where it can come from, because money paid to Amazon doesn't go directly to a employee of Amazon. It gets diffused and dispersed, but when you pay a farmer and a vendor, it's a direct linkage too. So it's kind of reframing what these numbers are, reframing that value. But GusNIP has those economic calculators that just came out, I think, this past summer. And it's wonderful tool.
It's nutritionincentivehub.org, and there's a resources tab, and there's a direct link to the calculator.
Yeah, I was gonna plug that resource since it is new. Just there's so much research also that we will be digging into a little bit later as well. But I know for us, like we rely quite heavily on our partners on American Heart Association, who are able to kind of do that research and more the advocacy phase where FoodWIse cannot, and help us tell that story specifically on that economic impact piece.
And there's also another point added to it is once you get markets who are able to process and SNAP and EBT transactions, that opens up an entire funding pool of SNAP benefits too that they otherwise would not have access to. And so you can account for those numbers in terms of just DATCAP data from how many people are on supplemental nutrition programs within your state, and kind of project those numbers out to being like, this is a population that otherwise would be excluded that now has access to farmers markets and can direct those funds towards there.
You can drill that down to county and zip code if you're ambitious. You still have a question?
I just wanted to comment on the POS devices, so speaking to your chickens and comment, I just got an email at 9 a.m. this morning that Total Pay will be free again next year. So it changes constantly.
It is, and you have to pay attention. I would say more so than anything else when it comes to processing EBT. You have to be very aware because that can change on a dime. Like, I mean, there, like 2 or 3 years ago, there was a mid-market season. They got an email and say, oh, Total Pay shutting down. We're out. And everybody freaked out. So you got to be on top of it. And there's a lot of people working to make sure there's continuity and affordability and things like that. But we're just not there. So let's just say that. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Anybody
I'd
else?
like to say something
Yeah.
about POS machines, because since 2011, that we've been running the program, that we actually just go with a company that supplies us with the machine. And that's better. We actually had a chance at a grant before to buy one, but there wasn't, I mean, when we started, there was no place for a chip because there wasn't a chip. And so that we might outdate, our machines might be outdated, whereas we get it from a company that gives us our service, that at least we can keep an up-to-date POS machine.
So, and that's a rental.
It is.
And so purchase is one option. And those machines, they say last 3 to 4 years. I know people are getting 10 out of them. But there is the issue of if they don't accept a chip, that shifts the liability for non-payment over to, like if you're using it for credit cards too, it shifts the liability for payment over to the farmer's market because it's a verification thing. But a lot of places are doing, you can rent monthly, so you don't have to pay for the device during the winter.
Right. That's what we.
Often they have better rates on the transaction rates. And when the machine's outdated, that's the company's problem. They have to give you a new machine. So it's a lower commitment. And for a lot of markets, they feel it's a lot lower cost too. So just something to think about. There's different options in different regions of the state. And a lot of that, a lot of what we focus on when we talk about those units is which cell towers they connect to. And if you have those cell towers in your area, or if you have any cell service at all in your market. So those are all tricky kind of technical things to work with. More questions?
I think there's one over there.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
What do you use for your,
Total Merchant Services,
what's it called?
Total Merchant Services. And they pay, Payments Hub. They work with a couple of things. When we started, it was just Total Merchant Services, but you can find them through that, but, Payments Hub. And I have found that their technical support is pretty good. Had to call them right during the market and try to figure things out, and, that when each year when I get the service, because we just keep it about 4 months, that they're, right there for us to give us the service again. They've got our info. It works smoothly. And at the end of the year, because a lot of them have contracts where you'd have to pay in the winter time or whatever, but they are willing to let us out of that, and so that company has worked really well for us for the.
Because last year, we had ours for right around 15 years. And then the first day of the market in May, it didn't work, which means I went like 5G. Machine wasn't compatible. They had so many people that couldn't get to everybody. So then I had to get a new machine that was $350. But then this year, again, for the market, it wasn't accepting EBT, and the customer service was absolutely awful. And so, they said so the machine that they used to chip still didn't work. So we do a lot with EBT and that we fight it, and our municipality runs our town runs, so our IT guy, we got an iPad that we at least take out into credit cards. But you have to type in everything to take a long time. So it was finally went to October that the machine got to put with everything. We were able to do EBT in the machine, but it didn't take up the credit card.
Oh, yes. And I've had these issues through the years too. One thing is, as much as I emphasize to them on the phone and in writing with emails about what I need in bold letters, that sometimes the machine's not loaded with what I need. One thing I do is I get it a few weeks before, I get the machine a few weeks before where I'm going to start, and I start testing it. And I have someone I know that has EBT, so I can do that and make sure that it's going to be ready for the first day. Because it's very disheartening to be promoting that you're gonna be starting your program. Social media, signage, whatever, word of mouth, and then it doesn't work the first day. And you've got people that are upset, and it's very understandable. I'm upset about it. And I don't need to be on the phone.
Yeah. I'll add to really quickly, what's happening right now, this conversation, all the time, constantly, every single season without fail. I mean, truly shifting sands, truly one of the largest barriers to many markets being able to even accept benefits. Just the tech.
If you don't have to call, tech support one time, at least during the year, something's not
Something's
right.
not right.
Or it's all right. We're not used to that.
Yeah.
And so one thing this brings up for me, in some other states, there's an opportunity every couple of years, the state renews its EBT processing contract. With usually either a company called FIS or Conduent, the other company, they both kind of have a dual monopoly. But as part of that processing contract, some states have put in a requirement that the processor provide free wireless equipment for farmers markets. Like if a farmer's market is a retailer that accepts EBT, they automatically get one of these bricks directly from the processor. And so that company is also responsible for servicing it. There's no fees associated with just doing the processing for EBT. It won't do debit credit, but from what it sounds like, many folks are in a situation where they're just that brick. So it's, again, kind of every 3 years, I don't know.
I don't believe we actually have that in our contract, and ours is FIS.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
so-
do, but it's wired. You have to have
So,
a
yeah,
wired
so that's
connection,
like, there's
so
an
it's not
opportunity
accessible.
whenever the contract comes up again, it's been becoming more and more common that states just included. It's pretty, like, I don't think it actually changed the cost that much. I doubt there are any farmers markets that are using a wired machine, realistically. So it just kind of makes it realistic for what markets need. There is also the total pay option, that was brought up before, which means you can use the iPhone, iPad. And so if you already have that, it just adds on something to the existing device that you already have someone paying for service for, and you don't have to deal with another brick. But it might not work in all market cases. It's very, I don't know.
It's all signal
an ornate
dependent.
process right now.
I think on that, one other thing I wanted to add to with the question of like, what is the future of local food accessibility? To me, it's what we're talking about right now. Like, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but Wisconsin is behind the times in terms of supporting our farmers markets with EBT accessibility and nutrition incentive programs. So to me, the future is what we're all here about today.
No, and the fastest growing segment of the agricultural economy is fruit and vegetable growers in the state. Easy point of entry, not a lot of cost. You can start real small. So I think the potential's there, but we've also got to figure out that profitability piece for the farmers to make it attractive to more people. Because people like health insurance. I know it's crazy. People, you know what I mean? People like to have a little bit of time off once in a while to go to, a soccer game or, do something fun. So we got to figure out how to get things all balanced out. So everybody's happy. See, there's my dream. Everybody's happy. All right. Before we close up, any other questions anybody wants to ask?
So we're looking into like the compost and stuff, like a lot of times our farmers markets at the end of the day, they kind of like stuff has to like get thrown out. I just don't know if anybody has like any kind of program that.
Historically, this is a program that just ended under the organization, but historically there was a cleaning operations around DCFM and Dane County's farmers market that I think Jamie can speak towards, still in existence now.
Have a great model, but then the farmers market, now we're making a for all, like the walks around the entire square of about $100 for the market. And in fact, they also do a program called Silence Learning Curve, which is very good. And violence donated as well to the farmers still actually get that money for food. So like talking about that.
There's a lot of ways to do that. And we have churches doing it and then taking it to the Salvation Army. We have 4-H groups doing it and taking it. So it can be done piecemeal where like our 4-H club in one area takes different families take each week. So it's not all on one person and they all take it to one area location. So there's a million ways to do that. So yeah. You can talk to Jamie about that. She'll give you all the details. Anybody else before we take a break? See, always taking a break, always. Okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break and we will be back for our next 5-minute break. We're gonna take a 5-minute break and then we will be back to the next panel.
Okay, all right, so Amy and I are gonna try to facilitate a little bit here. So my name is Kelly Stater with the Wisconsin Department of Health, Chronic Disease Prevention, Nutrition Coordinator, I leave it at that. That's awesome. Yeah.
Amy Minen, with UW-Madison School of Community Ecology and the Health Tide Network. And we've been asked to facilitate the second panel that's really going to focus on, is it safe to say, probably non-farmers market approaches to GusNIP?
A little bit louder.
A little bit louder. So we're going to focus on non-farmers market GusNIP approaches in this panel. So we're going to be talking about different points of access for fruits and vegetables, specifically thinking about our low income or marginalized community members.
So I'm wondering, sums it up. And some folks have slides for their introduction. If you want to start with those, we're going to let everybody introduce themselves and their organization. And if they want to mention any of their like current or past connections to nutrition incentive work, they can include that right away. But maybe Fair Share's up first.
That's me. Hi, everyone. I'm Tess Romansky. I'm with Fair Share CSA Coalition. I'm stepping in for my colleague Liv, who's the program manager for our Partner Shares program. Fair Share connects farmers and eaters through community supported agriculture, or CSA. There's a whole list of ways we do that, but one of the most pertinent ways for today is the Partner Shares program, which if we go to the next slide has a little bit of a breakdown. Yes. So our Partner Shares program is a self-selecting sliding scale model of assistance. So applicants can request 25, 50, or 75% towards the purchase of a CSA up to $350. And then they can pay for that using a variety of methods, SNAP being one of the biggest, credit card, check, a combination of all of those. And so essentially it's kind of offsetting the upfront cost of the CSA model. There's ways where we can provide a flexible payment schedule throughout the season. And then there's also one-on-one support. So each applicant gets really individualized care and attention for what they need in order to access CSA. And then the benefit for the farmer is Fair Share takes care of all of the upfront costs. So we pay the farmer directly the full market share value of their share. And then the farmer and the Partner Shares program member just have a really, standard, really personalized CSA relationship. So there's very little, we pay and then we kind of let the farmer and the members kind of do their thing and get the food throughout the season. So it's great for the farmer because they get that upfront payment, and it's great for the Partner Shares member because they can access the food and pay for it in whatever way they want, while also getting that level of assistance, often through SNAP. And then the last slide is just a quick breakdown. So the Partner Shares program started almost 30 years ago. We provided assistance for 10 shares in Dane County. This year we've provided over 400 shares to over 1,600 individuals in 39 counties, 75 cities, and 5 states, providing over $65,000 of assistance. And then on top of that, with the Partner Shares payments, or the payments of Partner Shares members are paying, over $100,000 are going directly to our farmers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Casey Hoff. I'm the policy analyst at Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin. So we're the largest anti-hunger organization in Wisconsin. We cover 35 counties on the eastern side of the state. We have almost 400 network partners within this footprint, from pantries, meal sites, shelters, etc. We have 21 recurring programs. When I say program, that could be a box program. So we're involved with the Tribal Elder Food Box program, Nurturing Collaborative, and then advocacy programs like Food Leaders Lab, where we connect with local residents for advocacy to solve hunger in their specific community. We have a large food share outreach program. So we have a team of 6 outreach specialists who help people in the community apply and see if they're eligible for food share. And we also have partnerships with many groceries across the state. So we have a program called Direct Connect, where food goes directly from a grocery. So these are groceries from Walmart to El Rey to Sendix, like local stores. Then that food goes directly to the pantry. Next slide, please. So I think one reason we're here today is because as a food bank, we are really committed to equity and dignity for all people accessing food in any type of way, whether that's through food share, through the charitable food system, or everyday grocery shopping. And we really believe we're unapologetically collaborative, and we want to continue that collaboration across all aspects across the state.
Hi, my name is Allie Belichka with the Department of Health Services. I run the Farmers Market Nutrition Program for the state of Wisconsin. We serve WIC participants and income eligible seniors. We provide them benefits to use at farmers markets or farm stands around the state, to use with local farmers and buy produce. Sort of statewide for WIC, we're in every county. For our senior agencies in 2022, we were in 52 counties. This year in 2023, we are in 70 counties and 3 tribal communities. So we have grown significantly. Other senior programming changes this year, it had been $25 per family or per household. It is now $35 per individual. So there's been a lot of growth in the senior programming for this year. And sort of in general, thinking about our farmers, we have over 1,000 farmers statewide, 208 markets, and 275 farm stands.
That slide wrongly told us we're going to watch. Okay, so that's the slide.
Okay, if the rest of you just want to take your turn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Edna Edie. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Planning and Landscape Architecture at UW-Madison. And I'm also the director of the Kaufman Lab for the Study and Design of Food Systems and Marketplaces. So I will preface this by saying that there will be a little bit of market conversation because our work is to work directly with markets. So we run a program that's called Farm to Fact, which is essentially a farmers market census, where we work with farmers market managers and provide them with the tools, survey instruments to be able to quantify and qualify their economic, social, and environmental impact. The program itself, we are working with over 100 farmers markets across the country, and we primarily work as an evaluator for our USDA grants. So we're on the state of Wisconsin, Kristen's state of Wisconsin Extension FMPP award. We're on all the LFPP with Wood County in the back. We are working on a grant in California. We're working in Michigan, and we recently are a partner on a $25 million Climate Smart Award through the USDA to work with underrepresented farmers and farmers markets in the Southeast, primarily to look at how to reduce the impact of global warming and how farmers can be a player in that. And I'll say that we just had a kickoff event this weekend in Raleigh. And one of the things that came out of that conversation, while we're talking about these big global issues, we're working with farmers market managers. We said, what can we do for you as a university? And they said, help us figure out SNAP. It's the same problem everywhere. I think that farmers market play a big role in increasing food access, but the logistics and the capacity is a big barrier.
Right, we'll go down the line, I guess. Hi, everyone. I'm Amber Canto. I am the director of the Health and Wellbeing Institute with the UW-Madison Division of Extension. My entry into this work started, I guess, over 12 years ago. I was just chatting with some folks in the corner as a food security specialist with the Division of Extension, where was really focused on looking at access to healthy, affordable foods. And since then have sort of transitioned into a couple of different roles into my current role. But consistent throughout that has been my connections with our SNAP Ed program. So this is the community-based nutrition education program that is federally funded. that we receive at UW-Madison. There are a number of other implementing agencies in the state of Wisconsin as well. And that is the education component connected to SNAP. And increasingly, we are focused not only on nutrition education to individuals with limited incomes and households that are eligible for SNAP, but focusing on the access and availability to safe, healthy, affordable foods across a number of different settings. The work of our institute spans across a number of different health and well-being issue areas, but a big component of it really is our focus on food and nutrition security. Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Christina Kuopt. I am the Customer Experience Manager for Willie Street Co-op in Dane County here. My role helps not only with customer service and ownership, but we also help shepherd social programs. And one happens to be Double Dollars. Since end of 2016, early 2017, we have been partners with the Community Action Coalition, where Double Dollars happens in the farmers market during the spring, summer seasons, and then in the fall, winter, and very, very early spring season, you can use those Double Dollars at all of our 3 locations. So we're the retail component to help make sure that Double Dollars is accessible almost year round. There might be a month or 2 that there's a gap, but it's almost year round. So we are the retail component, and myself and my team help implement that in our stores.
Dan is joining us. I don't know. We don't know if he can speak though. Is that correct?
Can you hear me?
I'll just introduce Dan, who's online, unable to be here in person. Dan Cornelius with the Great Lakes Intertribal Food Coalition. The Intertribal Food Coalition began in 2021. Their big project that some in the room may be aware of is the Tribal Elder Food Box. Started with 3 tribal nations and now has expanded to providing food boxes for elders across 12 tribal nations in Wisconsin, as well as a distribution site in Milwaukee through the Gerald L. Igneous Indian Health Center. So a lot of cool work happening with the tribes, and Dan's online. So hi, Dan.
Can you hear me?
Faintly.
Can you hear me? Oh, faintly. Well, Amy, if you can share it all more of just the producer impact. The first year we had 40 Oh, can you hear me any better now?
You want to try it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay, well, I just was going to just add onto what Amy was saying, that the first year we had roughly with $428,000, we had roughly 40% of product coming from native producers. Last year, increasing to 1.3 million, we had 60% of the product coming from native producers. And so I think really, to talk about food sovereignty, that's a term that's been used very widely in the past decade. How do we really achieve that? I think being able to essentially guarantee a market at a fair price for food that's feeding not only the community, but some of the most vulnerable members of the community and our elders has been a huge boost to be encouraging more production within our native communities. So I think that in addition to getting healthy food, that may be the biggest impact that we have with Tribal Elder Food Box and the related efforts.
So, and I think I can reiterate what Dan was saying, just the expansion over the last couple of years, beginning with about 40% of the food being purchased directly from native producers, and that number has been increasing now. I think it's like 28,000 boxes of food in 2023, and I think it's 60 or 70% of that coming from native producers. So sort of supply and demand, trying to grow the number of indigenous farmers while we are purchasing from them as well, creating a market. So Dan, I know you can only stay on for a few minutes, so thank you for joining. Yeah, let's launch into our first question. So if you could each take a turn, just kind of speaking to what you see your role or your organization's role in kind of a robust, collaborative GusNIP proposal. Since we already heard more on the farmers market side, we'd love to hear from you all these kind of varying perspectives of all these different partners that could be engaged in a more comprehensive GusNIP program. Feel free to go in whatever order.
I can go. So as a food bank, our idea is to strip away as many barriers as we can to people accessing more fruits and vegetables. And that to us is the 24/7 grocery model. So that's kind of where we right now are standing and hoping to participate in the statewide grant is being that brick and mortar side to supplement all the hard work that the farmers markets across the state are doing to get everyone quicker, easy access to more fruits and vegetables.
So this year, the Farmers Market Nutrition Program has started a modernization and moving slowly away from paper checks to using more technology. And I see us integrating with GusNIP in that regard of what that looks like with technology use for our participants, for our farmers, for nutrition incentive programs in general, and SNAP.
So the partnerships program in the last couple of years has seen really exponential growth. We opened the program in January and within 2 weeks we're full. We used to be able to provide assistance for an entire season. So we have a wait list. So there's definitely need for additional incentive funding to help support the growing number of people who are requesting assistance. And then on the flip side of that, FairShare's in a really unique space in that we also provide support for growers. So we have a really robust network of farmers who are in our coalition. And so providing technical assistance to support growers becoming SNAP authorized retailers is a place of growth. My colleague Liv ran a 2-year learning cohort with farmers on SNAP incentive programs for CSA. And as SNAP online is starting to roll out, there's some room, definitely room to increase farmers' ability to take SNAP.
So our role is primarily to work with farmers markets. We are already working with 35 under one of the grants and 5 on the smaller LFPP grant across the state. And our hope is that we can continue to build on that capacity and increase the number of markets that are participating in the work. And then in addition to that, as a university entity and research components, our role is really to support, to demonstrate that impact and work very closely with Kelly. I've been working very closely with Kelly on these grants. And so we have, I think, a lot of excitement to continue to build on that initiative.
Well, maybe continue down the thread of university entities. So the mission of the Division of Extension is really to connect the people and communities of Wisconsin with knowledge of the university and evidence-based practice in all its forms. And so I think with regards to GusNIP, we can play a couple of different roles. One, of course, convening such as this and bringing together partners and connecting to best practices, opportunities, and sort of knowledge of what we know, what works, but also to identify gaps and opportunities for where we can go into the future. And then, of course, as a Division of Extension, we touch a number of different issue areas across the spectrum of the food system. You've heard from a couple of our colleagues in agriculture, we have community food systems, and then within the health and nutrition space, thinking about those direct touch points to consumers, and then also helping build demand and support for the accessibility of strategies across the community.
From a cooperative perspective, the great thing about cooperative is we share resources, whether it be information, physical resources, knowledge of how structures have worked in the past. So it'd be really great if we need more retail locations to host double dollars. We can help grocery cooperatives that are maybe smaller than us to implement this. That's statewide, and we'd be happy to help share those resources. On our end, the co-op started in the 70s with one store, and it had a very, mom and pop feel to it. And it currently still does, but we have 2 more stores and it's grown at such an exponential rate that
we're working on our technology in general for a cooperative. And one of that is online ordering. And we recently changed providers, and currently you cannot use double dollars on that platform, and we're working on how to fix that. It's not a simple solution, but that would help with GusNIP because one of the barriers is how do you make this accessible to those who cannot come to a physical location or come to a farmer's market. So we're working on that component. Yeah, those are the two things.
The online number.
E-grocery, and then DoorDash would be, yes, yeah. And so, yeah, that's I think cooperatives, in general for that technology piece of like getting goods quickly to a consumer, is harder because we don't have all those same systems as like, larger conventional retailers. So that's a hurdle we are working on right now. But we have a lot of systems in place since 2016 of how to make this model work in smaller cooperatives.
Okay. Can I ask a follow-up question? And I don't know if this is for Tess or maybe Noah. But I was just curious if we know of other states or communities who have incorporated this CSA model into incentive work, and if I don't know if this is a real question or who could better answer that. Okay.
Yeah, well, so the partnerships program serves 5 states. So Fair Share is a coalition across the Midwest. I believe my colleague is the one who runs the program, but I also know that the program has been replicated in other CSA coalitions across the country. So I know the Pacific Northwest CSA coalition has a similar food incentive model.
We are currently, like, your program is doing nutrition incentive programs in other states, but not in the state that you were founded in.
Correct. Yes.
So,
Yeah, okay.
So the answer is like, yes, and we should too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to question about the CSA model, and I'm thinking about the training that was conducted, and I was wondering like what was covered when she was working with growers, like what kind of topics, and then what sort of changes in like practice or knowledge you can come out of that, and how is that made for this program?
That is a great question, and I will pass you her email because I have sadly not enough information to want to I want to give you the information that's correct and what I think is correct. So I'll give you her email when she, yeah.
You have a second question, but if there's a question, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So the reason why double dollars works well in a cooperative model is there's a revenue stream that's naturally there in 2 ways. One, you have shoppers who are usually tend to be more socially conscious, care about how their food dollars impact not just their own family, but others, and that nutritional component. So our shoppers are just generous. There are scan cards at each of our lanes, and even on our self-checkout lanes that you can donate, $1 to, would be nice $1 million, but that's an ambitious goal. So we get quite a lot of revenue through that. Also, we took a position of every reusable bag that you bring into our stores, the co-op donates 10 cents for that. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually adds up tremendously over 3 locations for a full year. And then on top of that, we're able to do matching programs. We, as a cooperative, there's something called abandoned equity that you cannot touch for operations, for profit. That was money that our owners invested in for their one share of a part of the business. And for whatever reason, either they unfortunately passed away and
It's covering costs, right? Are there any other changes?
Yes. It's not just that, it's that other piece, it's like having somebody you can call to figure out where to get your device, what happened, what's
So
wrong,
point of
how do I
contact.
apply? Like, if you're gonna pay for the devices, let's just be big and have somebody who's actually a specialist that handles all that kind of stuff, so there's one person who has to be up to date on it.
Yeah, with the shifting sand. Right.
Yeah, because you have to be on the ball, you have to be paying attention.
Okay. So we got one. What other systems changes does our panel think are key for supporting fruit and vegetable access?
I would add, long-term consistent funding, specifically formal state funding for incentive programs. You know, we're always trying to we always have a lot of requests for assistance and we're always trying to piece together and get as much funding as possible. And every year it's different. And so just having consistent long-term funding, knowing exactly what the funding is that we can tap into, would be really helpful.
And to partner on that, sometimes when you go and ask for funding on a city or state wide, you're competing against people that have also extremely worthy causes and that are very similar to yours. So you're all competing against each other for the same dollars, which is sad, you know, and you don't want anyone to lose that money. So it would be more like if it's built into the Wisconsin Nutrition Incentive Program of like, we as a state look at these programs and the health of it, and you have to prove your financials and validate that these are good streams. But we back you, here's enough money for, let's just say 5 to 10 years. You don't have to keep competing against each other. That would be ideal.
So remove the competition.
Yeah.
While we're at it, report the requirements. Okay. It's a very valid point. If we all have the same goal of increasing access.
It's just in different ways. It's in different streams, but it's doing the same thing.
I'll add that I think it's important to also center voices of lived experience. Like, are we talking to the people using these nutrition incentives? What was their experience when their POS system didn't work? How did that feel for them? Are they going to come back and use it again? Like, I know it's obviously a big barrier everyone in this room is trying to figure out, but I think understanding how that feels for someone and how that might create another barrier for them coming back or accessing fresh food is really important.
I would like a consistent platform. So I would like all of our nutrition programs held in the same place. So at least for farmers markets, that a participant could have every nutrition program that they qualify for in a single location, and farmers could take all of those different payments in that single location as well. So it's easier for the farmer and easier for the end user, and hopefully easier for all of us who administer the programs to be able to push it out the door.
A lot of head nodding on that one. So coordination of what you're saying, like WIC, Senior Farmers Market.
Yeah, I want WIC, I want WIC CVB, which is the cash value benefit. I want WIC Farmers Market, I want Senior Farmers Market, I want SNAP, and I want all other nutrition programs. So I want, and they actually have this platform, but it's expensive. So yeah, we need to figure out how to make that happen to me at this level, so then it can trickle down and affect everybody else, all of the farmers, all of the participants, and all of the programs.
Okay, and a platform exists.
Yep.
So perhaps this is another legislative ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say one more thing is if you are a farmer's market that has like some double dollars component and you're looking to get a retail to partner in your community so that it becomes a more year-round system, I highly recommend that the way that it's presented at the farmer market of how much is double as well as what is accepted for those dollars matches the retail, because otherwise it's extremely confusing. And then from like what you were saying down there, what is the participant experience? They say, well, why is this happening here and not here? And it can become a very confusing mix. And so making sure there's a creative statement in that way across platforms for
any additional thoughts? We have 1 minute.
I'll offer one. I'm the last person to offer. I think this is like a pivotal moment. This meeting, having everyone and so much knowledge in this room is super critical to the system change. We have been working on the statewide coordination for at least 12 years. And so I think this marks a super just huge opportunity to have so many different voices and perspectives represented together in the momentum around like, how are we gonna get this done for Wisconsin? And I think there's enough energy here to say like, yep, it's time. We have been working towards it. So kudos to all of you for showing up, and this is the systems change here.
Round of applause for our panel and all.